to our 5th lesson, and today we will be solving equations. For example, we have this equation right here, and we are trying to find 25 minus what number will give us 18. And in this case, we know that 25 minus 7 is 18. So the main thing when solving an equation is that we have to make sure that both the left side and the right side are always equal to each other. So if we were to put them on a balance, it would be straight. And usually when we are solving an equation, we are usually looking for some variable, so either x or y or whatever unknown we have in the equation. So we're going to do some practice trying to find different unknowns. So here, in order to find our unknown, which is x, we want to isolate it on one side. So we have x equal to something. So in order to do this, we need to get rid of this plus 8 over here. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. And whatever you do to one side, so if we're subtracting 8 on this side, we want to make sure that we also subtract 8 on the other side. So here the 8's are going to cancel, and we're going to end up with x equals negative 2. And that is our answer. And same idea here. We are looking for our unknown a, and to do that, we are going to subtract 4 from each side. And here the 4's are going to cancel, and here as well. So we're going to end up with a equals 0. Once again, here we are looking for our unknown, but this time we are subtracting 5. So in order to get rid of this 5, we're going to add 5 to it because negative 5 plus 5 is 0, so these are going to cancel out. And whatever we do to our left side, we are also going to do it to our right side. So we are going to end up with 4 plus 5. So we're going to end up with x is 9. Same idea here, we are isolating our x. So we are going to add 3 to each side. And these are going to cancel out. And so we're going to end up with negative 13. Oh, my bad. We're adding 3 to each side, so we're going to end up with negative 7. So now we're going to be looking at different kind of equation. So here we have 4 times x, and we want to isolate x, so we only want x on this side. And we want to get rid of the 4. The only way to get rid of the 4 here is to use the opposite operation. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we are going to divide 4 on each side. And here the 4's will cancel out. So we'll have x equals to 3. And same idea here, we're trying to isolate for our z, but this the negative 2 is in the way. So we want to divide each side by negative 2. So the negative 2's here will cancel. And we'll end up with z equals negative 6. And don't forget to divide by the negative as well, because the negative is part of the coefficient in front of the z. So we are solving for z and not negative z. So now what if you have x divided by something? Like here if you have x divided by 2. So now we're trying to get rid of this 2 here in the denominator. So the way to get rid of that would be to use the opposite operation of division, which is multiplication. So we are going to multiply both sides by 2. So this is going to cancel out, and we're going to end up with x equal to negative 10. And it's the exact same idea here. We want to isolate for x, so we're going to multiply by 3 on each side, and we end up with x equal to 12. Now we're going to take a look at equations that need more than one step to be solved. So for this equation, as an example, we can start by combining our like terms. which in this case would be the 6 and the 16, as they do not have an x. So in order to combine them, we would have to subtract 6 from both sides, and we would end up with 5x equals 10. And just like we were doing before, we would now use the opposite operation to multiplication, which is division, and we would divide both sides by 5, leaving us with x as 2. Since these multi-step equations can be a little bit harder and a little tricky, I would recommend that you guys stop this video and try to solve practice 5, A, B, C, and D all on your own, and then you guys can come back and watch the solutions. So for A here, we are going to start by combining our like terms, which in this case is 7 and 11. So we want to isolate 4x. So we are going to subtract 7 from each side. And so we are going to end up with 4x is 4. And then we can divide each side by 4 to isolate x. And we will end up with x equal to 1. It's the same idea here for B. We are going to add 6 to each side. And then divide by 5. And we end up with x equal to 8. For C, we are going to subtract 8 from both sides. And then divide by 3 to isolate x. And we end up with 5. And it's the same idea for D. We are going to add 3 to each side. And here we end up with 0 as our x. So we're going to keep going with more practice questions so you guys can get a hold of how to solve these equations. So once again, we want to combine all of our like terms together. So in this case, we want to combine the 3 and the 10, and then the 3x and the 2x, because the 3x and the 2x have the x, and the 3 and the 10 don't. So that's how we know that they're like terms and that we cannot add this 3 to the 3x. So we can start slowly by moving this 3 over to this side. So to do that, we can subtract each side by 3. So we will end up with 3x equal to 10 minus 3, and since they're like terms, we can combine them to get 7. And then now we want to combine the 3x and the 2x, and to do that, we can subtract 2x from each side. You can also subtract 3x from each side. It depends on what you would like to do, but both work. You should get the same answer either way. So if you would like to try doing it that way, that should also work out. So we will end up with x by combining these two like terms is equal to 7. And that doesn't need to be simplified any further. And then for B, it's the same idea. We're trying to combine our like terms. So in this case, 3 and 7 and negative 3x and negative 5x are our like terms. So we can start by subtracting 3 from each side. And since 7 and negative 3 are like terms, we can combine them to get 4. And then we can add 5x to each side. And since negative 3x and 5x are like terms, we can combine them to get 2x is 4. And then in order to isolate x even further, we want to divide by 2. So we end up with x is 2. So here are some even more practice problems. I suggest you guys try to run through them on your own. And if you come into any issues or any problems at all, watch this video and look over the solutions. And if you're still confused, please type a comment in the Google Classroom and we will get back to you and answer your question. So for A here, we are going to be combining our like terms once again. So here we have 6x and 7x, and then negative 8 and 4. So first we can subtract 6x from each side. And since 7x and 6x are like terms, we can subtract them right away. And then to isolate our x, we will subtract 4 from both sides. And so we end up with x equals negative 12. Same idea here, we have our like terms of 9x and 6x and 2 and negative 4. So we can start by subtracting 6x from both sides. And since 9x and 6x are like terms, we can subtract them right away to get 3x. And then to isolate this term, we want to subtract 2 from each side. And we end up with 3x equals negative 6. And then finally, to isolate our x, we want to divide each side by 3. And we end up with negative 2. For C, we have like terms of 3x and 2x and 5 and 8. So in order to isolate for x, we can subtract by 2x from both sides. And since 3x and 2x are like terms, we can subtract them and we get x. And then to isolate our x, we subtract both sides by 5 to end up with x as 3. And for D, it's the same idea. We have like terms of 7x and negative 3x, and also a 9x. So now we have 3 terms that carry the x, and we have 10 and 7. So first we want to combine all of our terms with an x together and all of the terms without an x together. So since there's already 2 terms with an x here on this side, we can subtract both sides by 7x to bring the 7x over to the right as well. And then to move this positive 7 over to the other side, we are going to subtract 7 from each side. And now we can merge these like terms and these like terms. So we have on our left side 10 minus 7, which is 3. And on our right side we have 9x minus 3x, which is 6x, minus 7x is negative x. And then in order to isolate x, we still have this negative sign. So this is basically equal to negative 1x. So in order to get rid of the negative, we are going to divide by negative 1. And so we are going to end up with x is negative 3, because this negative sign can go in the numerator, in the middle, or in the denominator. So you can rewrite 3 over negative 1 as negative 3. The main common mistake with solving equations is more wording based, as one shouldn't say that they moved a number over. Instead, you should say that you added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided the number on both sides. So if you guys are interested in reading more about that, you guys can read over this. But we are going to solve one final practice question. So for this question, we are trying to see if Alex solved the following equation correctly. So first, we are going to run through it. We're going to solve it on our own, and then we're going to critique the way he did it. So first, we are going to combine our like terms, which in this case are 10 and 46. So to do that, we are going to subtract 10 on both sides. And we end up with 2x equal to 36. And then we divide by 2 to isolate our x. And we end up with x equal to 18, which does not seem to be what Alex got. So let's run through his solution and see where he went wrong. So first, instead of combining our like terms, he divided everything by 2, which he can do if he wants to. It just makes things a little more complicated, as when you divide this by 2, you want to make sure that every single term gets divided by 2. So he also had to divide the 10 by 2, which he did not do. So that was one mistake. And then when isolating for x here, instead of subtracting 10 from both sides, he added the 10 over to this side, which was also a mistake. And so if you were to rectify those, he would also have gotten 18 like us. And that's the end of our lesson. I hope you guys learned something, and if you guys have any questions at all, please make sure to write them in a comment on the Google Classroom and we will answer them. Thank you so much.